An explosive new book about the controversial Duke and Duchess of Sussex has been released, and already creating headlines and undoubtedly headaches for the royals.
There's an enormous amount of detail in Tom Bower's book, Revenge, about Meghan, and the detail is quite revealing. He talks about the Vanity Fair shoot, which Meghan was on the cover of the magazine. She apparently had wanted to do this photo shoot to talk about her philanthropic interests, her activism, her humanitarian concerns. But what happened is that the headline on the magazine basically said, "She's wild about Harry." Now, look, the thing is, I think that, she did want to promote these other issues, but someone of her calibre, someone who was an actress who'd been used to doing PR, she should have known that when she confirmed, yes, we're in love, and when she went on to say, look, we will be able to talk about it more in the future, but for right now, it's our time. As someone who's a journalist, I'm sorry, that's your lead. When the world is focused on the heir to the throne, and his new girlfriend, the fact she's a Canadian actress, people are going to be interested in her thoughts about Harry. So I think it was very naive of her to imagine that she may be contained to just philanthropic interests.
The book has also revealed what Prince Harry's friends thought of Meghan when they first met.
Tom Bower's book has looked into the early relationship that Harry and Meghan had with some of his friends. Now, of course, Harry went to Eton, he then was in the military. He's got a close posse of friends, as evidenced by some of his behaviour in the US when he was in a Nazi uniform. Like he has these close-knit friends who've protected him for years. So what happens is there's a shooting weekend at Sandringham. Meghan and Harry go along to that. Harry's asked the Queen if his mates and their wives and girlfriends can come along. Apparently, according to Tom Bower, what happens throughout the weekend is that Meghan challenges some of Harry's friends every time they make a comment about feminism or transgender issues or environmental issues. She's onto them straight away. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, those are her interests and those are her values. Fine to be able to prosecute those as she sees fit. But what it did do is sort of have an impact on Harry's friendship group where, according to Bower, they were all driving away from that weekend and there were text messages going furiously saying things such as, she's nuts, he's nuts for getting himself into this, and there was not a lot of love for Meghan, apparently, after that weekend.
It wasn't just the Vanity Fair shoot that caused headaches. Meghan Markle was also reportedly displaying diva qualities during a campaign shoot for a Canadian clothing company.
Yes, Meghan has also been sort of called out for some diva behaviour back when she was an actress on Suits. In fact, she was not a very well-known actress. She hadn't been able to crack it into Hollywood. She got a new agent, and Tom Powers tells the story of how she was on a photo shoot. She'd been commissioned by a fairly low-market clothing brand in Canada to do their photo campaign. And what's really interesting is he has done a lot of legwork, gone back to various people who were working on that shoot, photographers, assistants, people from the company that employed her to do this, and the diva-esque behaviour. So, for instance, she demands a better hotel room. She demands, she complains apparently that her vegan juice is too warm. She turns up at the photo shoot and she has strong ideas of how the script should run. Now, anyone that works in advertising knows that the scripts and the sell effectively on an advertising campaign is decided well before the star sits down to take their place wearing the clothes. Meghan had very strong opinions about what that script should be, and that if she was going to be involved with it, this is how it should be. And most interestingly, the company, this is a low budget clothing line, they had called in some Aquazura shoes. Now, we know that Meghan loves those shoes because they're what she wore on the evening of her wedding. Apparently, the shoes were nowhere to be found after the shoot. So as the author points out, that she'd clearly forgotten to leave them there after the shoot. So interesting insight into her life before she met Harry.
The new book has also revealed there were reportedly high-level conversations between the Queen and Prince Charles over Meghan's relationship with her father.
this was a few weeks after the wedding, and as if you remember, of course, Meghan's father didn't attend the wedding. He didn't walk her down the aisle, and the reason given by Meghan at that time was that he had heart issues. Now, what happened a few weeks after, of course, this is going nuts in the UK. Like, this is washing your dirty laundry in public, full scale. And what Charles and the Queen wanted was for Meghan to try to meet with her father and to try and dampen down all the problems that were occurring. What happened is that Meghan and Harry were on a weekend away in Scotland, staying with Charles and Camilla, and apparently there was a high-level conference call which the Queen dialed into, where they were asking her to go and see her father, to quietly go to Mexico and to meet with him and see if she couldn't bring about some rapprochement that would, of course, then cancelled some of these headlines. She said there was no way she could do that she would be followed, there would be press, that there was no way she could meet him secretly. And of course, as we know, she would later go on to write that letter that he then leaked to the press. So really interesting to see some insights as to the extent to which the royal family were concerned about the Thomas Markle factor in the early days of Meghan and Harry's marriage. It was a very tricky time. These were massive headlines. I mean, obviously, subsequently, the royal family has plenty to deal with of its own, including the Prince Andrew issue. But right back then, very much so, they were concerned that Meghan's family history was not a good look for the royal family.
There's been silence so far from the Duchess's camp after the book's release. But will that continue?
It's highly unlikely she will react directly to it, because that would be to be giving oxygen to the book. There's reports, obviously, as we know, that Harry is writing his own book, so we may get some insight into these allegations and incidents at the time of the publication of that book. It'll be interesting to see where Meghan and Harry do go with this, because this is fairly detailed information about her behaviour and her character. So we know they tend to respond in different ways. Perhaps she'll just renew her focus on issues that she wants people to see her for, humanitarian issues surrounding women. She's of course had conversations regarding Roe versus Wade, the decision, the overturning by the Supreme Court. So perhaps she'll just focus on the things that are important to her so as not to bring more attention to these issues. But we have to wait and see.